today I'm down in West Somerset on the Quantock Hills at the lovely Cothelstone Manor. What was a family home has been brought back to life as a luxury holiday home for people to get together and to celebrate. And I'm delighted to welcome Hermione to the podcast, who's going to tell me all about this incredible space and bringing it back to life. Hermione, welcome to Curated Spaces. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Molly. That's so kind. I'm great, thank you, and it's great for you to be here.
Oh, it's so lovely. And I've just left a very rainy, grey, drizzly London, and we're in these gorgeous rolling green hills. The sun has come out. Somerset is the place to be, I think, today.
Yeah, Somerset is so beautiful.
And for people who maybe haven't been to Somerset, are there any local gems or hidden things they should do while they're down here?
Well, so we are on the Quantock Hills at the moment, which is a national landscape and was actually the first area of outstanding natural beauty to be designated in England.
Really?
And it's so beautiful, and I always think not that well known. We've got Exmoor and Dartmoor quite close, and so we get a little bit overlooked, but it's so beautiful here. Amazing walking, amazing views. So that's the hidden gem, I think.
And I feel like you're so right. People often see Somerset as maybe like a stopping off point on the way down to Cornwall and Devon and the rest of it. But I love it here, and it's got so much popping off. You've got the Howes and Worth, is it? And like Bruton's obviously so trendy and cool, but it feels like every time I come there's a new opening, a new restaurant. It's buzzing.
Absolutely, no, I totally agree. North Somerset is obviously like really in the limelight at the moment. But it just feels like things are sort of slowly coming down to West Somerset, which is where we are. And it feels really exciting.
Yeah, and you heard it here first. West is best. It's coming. Well, then I'd love to get into the story of this space, but let's start with you, because I know that you obviously grew up here, and I'd love to hear all about your childhood and then how the actual project came about more recently.
Yeah, absolutely. So lucky enough to grow up in Cothelstone Manor for the first 12 years of my life. It was just my home, and I loved it, but sort of the stories that my parents tell, it was absolutely freezing cold. So I think we're quite hardy as children, aren't we?
Yeah.
And then we ended up, there was a coach house also on the estate, which was sort of at the point where it would either fall down or we needed to convert it. And so my parents decided to convert the coach house, which is where we then moved to. And that's where they still live. And so the manor then got let to two other families over the next 13 years. Yeah. And it came back to us relatively unexpectedly. And it was actually at a time where I had sort of just moved back from the pandemic, although I was still working my London job. And we were faced with a little bit of a conundrum because the house needed a lot of work. In fact, the agent, who is actually a family friend of ours who had let it to the family before, said to my father, you absolutely can't let this again without doing work, because there wasn't a single shower in the house. The electrics were quite patchy. The heating was almost non-existent, and in, what was it then, 2020, we had to do a little bit of work. So that's that was the beginning. We spent quite a long time crunching numbers, looking at all of the options, and I was in, I suppose, a relatively lucky position because this was sort of my background. I qualified as a rural surveyor, and although at the time was working in rural policy, I've always been interested in planning and housing and restorations. And so yes, we did sort of lots of work, then went to planning and got through all of that, which just about survived planning, listed building consent, and then kick off. And then so it was exciting, and it definitely, I didn't realise how big of a project it was before we started, which I think is definitely a good thing, because I'm not sure whether we would have done it.
In hindsight, you didn't know what you didn't
exactly, didn't know what we didn't know. But honestly, couldn't be happier, and it's really lovely because having grown up here and actually lots of our community know the house really well, and my friends, and it's just brought so much love back to it, and it's so really happy that we're here now.
Oh, and it's looking gorgeous. So we turned into that lovely gate at the end, and the lovely avenue of trees, and then you see this amazing, the old gatehouse that you were saying is proper medieval.
Yeah.
And it's grade 1 listed, and then just beyond that you see this incredible, quite an imposing facade, but the beautiful like red stone I just love around here, and all those like gorgeous windows. It is a big building, so I'm not surprised that the project itself was a big project. And then so when you started, were you like, okay, this is going to be a holiday home, or this is going to be a yada yada, or were you kind of like, let's start and get a feel for it and see what the space reveals itself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I knew from a sort of fun, sort of young person's perspective, I knew that the funnest option would definitely be a holiday home. But I sort of was sensible, and we looked at the other options. So the sort of 2 other main options we looked at was to do a little bit of work. So sort of the main things like electric and heating, and then re-let it to a family. The other option was to let it in its current condition, with the occupants then sort of making the improvements themselves. So one of the reasons, probably the biggest reason for me personally, I love the idea of more people being able to enjoy it. It's such a big part of where I draw my happiness and fulfillment from, and so like every time we have guests in, every time it's a bit of an occasion house, so they're often celebrating something. I just love it so much. I love seeing the lights on. So for me, it is quite a big house, and of course, you know, families can and have lived here, but it just feels like it's better suited for more people, and for it to be like the fun thing with, you know, with having 7 bedrooms, it can sleep 14 to 16, is that the whole house is enjoyed over the weekend, over the couple of days or the week, which is so lovely. When I lived here as a child, we honestly lived in 2 rooms of the house because it was so cold, and also just because, you know, it is a very big space to fill. So that's definitely like a big part of it is just like lots more people getting to
and I love how you've done it. It's not like you walk in, you're like, okay, that's the pre-dinner drinks room and that's this room. But it's like each room has been very carefully thought about, like it could have a very specific purpose. So we're sat in the snug, which is this like gorgeous dark green olivey walls, this like huge sofa that I just want to like lie on and never leave, and it's very cozy and snug. But the next door we had the big like billiards room, but again it just felt like you could have a bit of fun in there. Like you might not be playing billiards or pool, I actually don't know the difference, but you know, it's the games room. But then it's all very like, it could just be a lounge, and it could be whatever you want it to be, and I can see how each occasion could be very different and make a very different use of the space. Yeah,
and actually that's really lovely you said that, because it was a real intention was for people to come and for it to really feel like theirs, and that's what I really wanted to create. I didn't want to be too prescriptive on anything. I just wanted them to come and really relax, really celebrate, really enjoy. So I'm so glad that you noticed that.
I love it, and I also love it. It's such a huge house, but yet Ed, your lovely designer, has got so much out of it, like the little hidden cupboard, which you said it used to be like your laundry cupboard. And he's managed to sneak in this like gorgeous little hidden shower bathroom, which is just stunning, but like a little magical under the stairs cupboard. It's just like everywhere you go there's a little something to just be like, oh, that's lovely, and I wouldn't even think that was there.
No, absolutely, because it is such a big space. And actually the other sort of feedback we've got, which has been really lovely, is that it feels quite a warm house. And you know, growing up, it was a cold house, but it felt quite cold. And so it's been really lovely, sort of friends of mine and family friends coming back and being like, goodness, it's got such a warm feel to it now. And I think that's really down to Ed, and you know, not just the colours he chose, but also how he's filled the rooms. So he's very talented.
And his process then, because I think we were walking around and you were like, you can't imagine how little there was. Like there was, you know, there wasn't even like this statement thing that you could base this room off. It was like, what did you say? Just
totally empty. So there was, in fact, I haven't pointed out there is a big family tree from the family that used to live here, which we got reframed. That was the only item in the house.
No.
Yeah, I'll show it to you afterwards. But so he really was working with sort of the bones, and the house was painted almost in its entirety of different shades of yellow. So I said to Ed, I said, please don't paint any rooms yellow. Yellow can look gorgeous. I just had seen so much yellow and I really wanted it to be totally sort of fresh start. But, you know, the rest was sort of totally up to him to create. So, yeah, a big project.
And do you know what he sort of lent on in terms of his influences, or where does he like pull his inspiration from? Obviously you've got so much to go off here, like the rolling countryside and Somerset, but some of it was a bit more like the castle room was a bit of fun with the turrets.
Really cool. So I can't decide whether I was a really good client or a really bad client, because when Ed came on board, and Ed is an old school friend of mine, and we've known each other since we were tiny, and when he came on board, I gave him such, I think I said to him, I'd love earthy colours. Like, I'd like earthy colours. And I think that was the only thing I gave him, poor man. and he has just created something which I love. And he would show me, you know, he would give me sort of workups of rooms, and there was one thing that I said no to, and it's in the house, and I absolutely love it.
Which thing was it?
It's as you walk up the main staircase, there is this big, it's actually lots of different brown canvases together, so it sort of looks like one piece of work of art. When he showed it to me, they were set up differently, and I was like, actually, I think, you know, I don't love it, let's go for something else. And he knew how brilliant it would be in the space, and he said, like, I will respect for other things, but I really think we should push this through. And I loved everything else. So I said to him, I'd like it earthy. One of the biggest influences for him was sort of bringing the outdoors in. Sounds a bit cliche, but we are surrounded by the Quantocks are absolutely beautiful, and we're sort of in the middle of Cothelstone Estate, which is an estate that I manage with my father, and it's absolutely beautiful. And, you know, our priority, we farm organically, and our cattle are pastured for life, and we're regenerative, and sort of nature is really important to us. And so he really brought that into the house, and a lot of the colours are sort of, in fact, we've got a photo of Exmoor behind us, although we're on the Quantocks, they're quite a similar colour palette. And so he really managed to sort of bring that in. And I also said I wanted him to have a bit of fun, because what I love about going to holiday homes is going somewhere that you wouldn't necessarily do in your own house. And so he's definitely like, it's quite calm. I think it's quite a calm house. I didn't want anything like too bold and bright and jarring, because I wanted the impact to be a little bit more subtle, and I wanted to be sort of celebrating, but also just like a calm environment. And so yeah, and he's travelled quite a lot, and so he's definitely brought in aspects. There's like really beautiful materials, and sort of you can see influences from different countries through like the textures and the textiles and the colours, and I love that sort of being weaved throughout the house while still feeling quite traditional, because I think they all sort of weave together quite nicely, rather than it being like, oh, we're in this room which is African influence or like Middle Eastern influence. It's quite subtle. But yeah, it was, he really took the earthy, my one word.
Love earthy, and he's done a great, because it's not like drab, depressing browns and greens earthy. It's like I say, it's calming. It feels very rich. The light comes in through those gorgeous windows, and it's just real. And then you'll go into the kitchen, and for someone who's just panic painted their kitchen red, validation. It's a red kitchen, and it looks so good. And I was like, for you. I haven't made a terrible mistake. I'm not going to have to paint it sage green, which I love, and it's just like so fun. But again, it's not like pillar box, like double decker red. It's like a really lovely, rich, warm red, which almost kind of ties in with like the lovely red stone outside.
Well, it does, and actually that's what we wanted. It's not perfect for the red stone, but it's a tone on both the red stone and also our red soil. We have really red soil around here, which again is beautiful. And it's like a little bit more fun than those two, but I love that it is a tone of them. So it really sort of continues through. And then the the outdoor seating, the chairs, again, I chose to tie in that like red orangey colour through there, so that we could keep that.
And what I love about that is you go out at the back of the house and you can see the church right there, lovely. Oh, we'll have to talk about the gate in a second. But there's this little sort of courtyard, and there's that big table. I don't know how many seats there were, like 20, like a big sit-down dinner table with quite funky modern chairs. And actually my first impression was like, you walk out in the building itself, apart from the chairs and the wood-fired hot tub, you're like, this could have been, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, and you could still have like a big sit-down feast with like, nearest and dearest. And actually I was kind of like, that's so lovely that this space has been here for so long, and bringing families together, sharing the space, and you're now doing that in like a whole new way, letting a whole new bunch of people come and discover this place. And you've done it with a couple of schoolmates as well, who were like, what a lovely project and way for space to be brought back to life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel just incredibly lucky, and I sort of joke sometimes like, what have I done, because I've had such an amazing team. And Ed sort of critical doing the interiors and such a huge part of running the project, but sort of another thing that was quite important to me for this project was that I don't know if benefited is the right word, but it was really integrated into the local community, and the local community benefited from it. And so we used the building firm that did the project for us, the build side, live on the estate, and their building firm is based on the estate. The woman who did all our upholstery for us lives in one of our cottages. My sister's the photographer, my brother-in-law's the decorator, the carpenter has his workshop on the estate. It's such a lovely personal project for so many people, and it's really nice because I think the project felt different because of that, because everybody knew the house. They know us really well. It felt different, so I think we got the best out of everyone, which was a really lovely sort of project to be part of. That being said, there absolutely were ups and downs.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's making it, I think, probably might have blocked out a few bits, but
rose tinted specs,
rose tinted specs, exactly. But on reflection, we're here now, and I'm sort of really proud of what everyone's done. And it's great. Oh,
as you should be. And actually, I love you mentioned the estate from more of like an agriculture use and the shift towards regenerative farming, and how that sort of changed. Obviously, it's been in your family for so long, and they must have seen all these shifts in how we farm and how we use the land. So actually, and it feels like we're on the cusp of like a very new big. When I started this podcast, I never thought I'd talk so much about like soil health, but here we are. And actually, what that's been like as sort of a family with a lot of land, and how that's been changing. Yeah, absolutely. I feel really lucky because actually my father has always been incredibly interested and passionate about nature and soil health and habitats and the environment, and so he actually turned the farm organic in 2008. Wow. It was organic. Yeah. And so he's always been, slightly ahead of the curve. And so I grew up on an organic farm, and I grew up sort of with, we've always been in environmental schemes, stewardship. He loves his trees and loves his hedges, so he's always planting lots of those. And so for me, it was quite normal, that sort of farming. And we've absolutely still, knowledge evolves, and our priorities change, and so absolutely from where Dad was in 2008, we've come a long way. And one of the things that I love is we're quite open to change, and I came back into the business a couple of years ago with a bit more energy, and sort of with my own ideas. We align quite a lot, which is really, really lovely. And Dad is quite happy to let me run wild,
to sort of do my own things, which is great. So we've absolutely been on sort of a journey to become more regenerative, and it's been amazing. The landscape where we are, we've got a lot of ancient woodland, we've got a lot of historic permanent pasture. We have also got some arable ground. It just, the way we farm makes sense. We're quite extensive, although we mob graze our cattle, and we have lovely native breeds and slow grown and sort of all the lovely things. And actually, you know, we're in a lucky position for that because the farm is in our family. But one of the sort of reasons why we chose to turn the manor into a holiday let was to support the business as a whole.
Yeah. Because,
you know, farming, as listeners may know, sort of the farming landscape is changing slightly, and we're losing some of our income, which we used to get from Europe under BPS. So a lot of farms have sort of had to look for other income streams elsewhere. And I think for me, it feels really lovely being able to hopefully turn this into a profitable business that can then, I don't want the farm to be subsidised, but I want it to support us to be able to farm in a way that's really beneficial to the environment. Yeah. And so, you know, for me, it is all really connected and it's linked. And I think it is quite personal because this is family run. I work with my dad. I also have a sister that is also a farmer and lives on the estate. And my mum is, she lives at home with my dad and is also sort of involved in things. So yeah, it's a
family affair.
It is a family affair. Yeah,
I think it's so true. And you know, love him or hate him, Clarkson has got like 5-6 million people watching a program about farming, which is insane. And I think really opened a lot of people's eyes to like the grim reality that it's hard work. And you know, the end of season 1 where he's like, I've made 73p. Yeah. And you're like, what? And then you're like, well, not every farm can have an Amazon TV crew following them around. Yeah. So like, of course you have to make use of what you've got and rethink how you're using your land and your estate in general. And so yeah, I think, love him or hate him, he's definitely brought that to the forefront for a lot of people. So yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think, he's doing amazing things. And actually, to have sort of most farmers say it's a brilliant programme, it's quite impressive. He's definitely got farmers on his side. So no, it's it's all part of the story. And you know one of the things I would love, we've actually the guests I've got coming this afternoon have done an order with a local organic farm to us who are amazing and I love. It would be so lovely to get to the point where they were able to buy our own produce off the farm and sort of just tie and weave in it like that even more.
That would be nice, a little barbecue box to have.
Exactly. Because I love, obviously the house is beautiful, thank you Ed, it's absolutely gorgeous, and I do find sometimes guests don't leave the house because it's so lovely.
Why would you?
And I'm like, the estate is so beautiful, like I love the idea of guests getting out and walking on the estate and walking up on the Quantocks, and they sometimes don't leave the back garden. There's lovely grounds here, so there is space sort of, you don't, with the top garden.
Well, with the croquet lawn and the hot tub, why would you leave?
The hot tub, exactly. So yeah, they don't have to, but I'm always like, there are beautiful walks around.
I'll leave the walk book right here for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we're looking ahead at the next chapter of this story then. What are you most excited about? Would you have anything else, barbecue boxes aside, anything else that you'd love to do more of or maybe look at integrating in the future?
Great question. So I'm just starting to look at trying to start a wedding venue at Cothelstone Manor, which is really exciting. It was something I knew I always wanted to do when this project started, because as I think you mentioned earlier, the church is so close to the house and we have really lucky to have beautiful grounds, and it felt a little overwhelming doing that sort of any earlier. And I actually had a few couples contact me about weddings, and I was like, okay, it's time.
Supply and demand.
It's time to tackle. So I have sort of started looking into it. I've had a couple of viewings, which is so exciting, and it really sort of builds my energy and confidence to sort of go down that route a bit more seriously. And like, I love guests coming here to celebrate. I love the idea of even more people coming here to celebrate weddings. I love weddings, so that's really, really exciting. So I think I'm hoping I'll have a couple of weddings next year, and then hopefully watch this space develop it even further.
Oh, well, that's so exciting. I love a wedding. What a fun future ahead. It's been so lovely chatting, Hermione. We do, of course, have 3 questions before we go. A little closing tradition. I'm going to ask you for 3 spaces and you let me know what comes to mind for you. So number 1, where are you running away to disconnect and detox?
such a good question. So I actually, inspired by one of your previous podcasts, I am running away to an unplugged cabin.
Oh, lovely.
So since listening to your episode, I've then been following them on Instagram, and I probably, like lots of other people, I do use my phone too much. I use it for work as well as personally. And yeah, every time I see those photos come up, I'm like, oh, just a space to totally unplug. And it sounds ridiculous because I live in a very beautiful place. And I said this to my father that I'd like to go, and he said, why don't you just switch your phone off and just go up to the woods? I was like, not quite the same.
You don't get it, Dad.
You really don't get it. So yeah, that is on my wish list, and I'm really hoping that in the next couple of years I will definitely be able to go.
That.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hector and the team.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, next one's slightly different, and you can't say here. Where would you host your ultimate birthday party or other big celebration?
Oh, so fun. I went on the loveliest girls' trip a couple of summers ago when we were sailing around the islands in Greece.
Oh, get
And
out.
you know what? I think it wouldn't be anything big. It would be my close group of girlfriends. And I think that's what I would do.
Oh, that would be
I might
so
go
fun.
somewhere different.
Yeah.
Croatia, any idea, welcome. That's what I think I would do.
Oh, that sounds so nice. So nice to be by water.
Yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
I love that. Great answer. Then you get loads of trips in. Fantastic.
Well, yeah, so true.
I love it. And then lastly, your once in a lifetime bucket list trip. Where are you heading? And are you staying anywhere special?
I am desperate to go to New Zealand.
Yes.
I really, really want to go. And I have loose plans of going this coming winter.
Nice.
For a couple of months. I want to go before my dad retires. So I wouldn't know where I was staying, but I definitely want to go.
In a van, probably.
Probably in a van. Exactly. Yeah.
Other people are like, the Four Seasons in Bali, and you're like, I'll have a van.
A van. The money will be spent on the plane ticket rather than the accommodation.
To be fair. But still, New Zealand, amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 very good answers. Thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh, thanks so much, Molly.
Thank you, lovely listeners, for tuning in. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so hit me up for natter, slide into my DMs, or leave a review. It honestly means the world and keeps the podcast going. You can, of course, find all of our lovely spaces and many more in the new Curated Spaces platform. Head to app.curatedSpaces.club to explore the whole collection and start planning your next getaway. And I'll be back very soon with more stories and inside scoops, so I'll catch you then for more Curated Spaces.